Alrighty, there's a lot I could be talking about today, but we got an on-farm payroll report, so that trumps everything on this channel. I will talk about other stuff tomorrow if you're not interested in unemployment. But this was an interesting month. Of course, expectations on Wall Street were not met. The wizards of smart were wrong in their forecasting again. I forget what the expectations were for, but the real number ended up being the number that they're giving us, the official number, I should say. So not the real number. We don't know what the real number is, but the official number from the authorities is 209,000 new jobs created in the month of June. And for the previous 2 months, we had downward revisions. April was revised down, and so was May. There's a good chance that then June will be revised down as well. We never really end up seeing them lately with upward revisions. In fact, all of 2023, every single month, ends up getting a downward revision. So it seems that they are overestimating, even by their own account, early on, and then as time goes on, they give us what they think is a little closer to the real number. But for those of you who have followed these things for a while, you know that they cooked the books pretty hard on the non-farm payroll report and unemployment. Officially, the unemployment rate is unchanged at 3.6%. If you look at the shadow stats real unemployment rate, which is based on the old unemployment rate calculations that was used during the stagflation of the 70s, for example, and going further back. I think that they first went away from it maybe in the 80s or 1990, I forget thereabouts. They did similar things with the inflation rate. They changed how they calculated that. But the shadow stats number is of all people in the country. The official unemployment rate discounts people who are quote unquote not in the labor force. So it doesn't mean that 97% of people in the country are working if we have a 3% unemployment rate. What it means is that 97% of the so-called labor force, as defined by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, has a job. And infamously, people who are unemployed for a long time are not considered to be a part of the labor force by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you're unemployed and you can't find a job, eventually you just drop off and they just don't think you exist anymore. You're forgotten, literally, by the American government. They don't even count you as unemployed because they just think you're that much of a failure. So, to review, the official U3 unemployment rate hovering right at 3.6%, unchanged for the month of June, but the shadow stats unemployment rate all the way up at 25%. I think if you asked the average person whether they think unemployment in reality is closer to 3% or 25%, I think most people are going to say, yeah, 25% sounds more accurate. So with that said, what about new jobs created this month? 209,000 new jobs on net. That's got to be a good thing, right? Well, it might seem good for 209,000 people. Okay, 209,000 people who are unemployed got a job, right? That's what that means. No. That means there were 209,000 new jobs created, meaning that 209,000 people were hired, but 209,000 new people did not get a job. In fact, on net, it would appear that 34? I'm trying to remember the exact number now. No, it's 24. 24,000 people on net actually lost their job in the month of June. So how did we get 209,000 net new jobs? Well, we had 233,000 people take on a second or third job, or no, take on at least a second job. Multiple job holders increased by 233,000. And by multiple job holders, I mean people who work more than one job. So these are people who in May had one job, and in June got a second job, or potentially a third job, but I think it'd be very strange for somebody to get a second and a third job in the same month. So let's just say odds are 99% of these people only got a second job. They might get a third job down the line. There are certainly people who work 3 jobs, plenty of them in this country, and more every month. But that would not change their status as far as the statistic is concerned. This is binary. Do you have one job? Do you have more than one job? And so that number for this month, 233,000 people. So more people got a second job in the month of June than there were new jobs created. So in reality, some of these people who got a second job got a job that someone else who was only working one job either got fired from or left. That's how you get more people who took on a second job than the amount of jobs created. On net, 24,000 people. Based on this math, this is not officially printed, but I'm just looking, I'm adding up the different numbers, thinking about what they mean. It means 24,000 people on net lost their job in the month of June. No, is that a lot? No, it's a big country. 24,000 people. That could be a blip. I mean, it really is. It's infinitesimally small. But the economy is not really the kind of thing that stands still. You don't really have everyone just sitting in a stasis where, okay, maybe you gain 10,000, maybe we gain 25,000 jobs one month and we lose 25,000 the next month. That's not really how this works. You're kind of moving in one direction or the other. And so if we're starting to turn a corner now to where 24,000 people on net are losing their job this month, it might be reasonable to expect that even more people are going to lose their job next month. In other words, if unemployment isn't decreasing, it's going to start increasing. And I mean the real unemployment rate. I don't mean the phony labor force adjusted unemployment rate. That unemployment rate is definitely rigged so that when you have people lose their jobs and never get another job again, that they don't get counted anymore, and so the unemployment rate doesn't change. So I'm not walking around with my hair on fire. I'm not saying the end is nigh. But we know eventually this ship, the tide has to turn. Okay? I'm going to use a different nautical analogy. The tide has to turn. The Fed hiked rates. It's done. We know what happens eventually when you do that. Sure, we've got the long and variable lag. But at the end of the day, the result is always the same. They've only been able to prop up this, 15-year economic expansion through phony statistics and lies and every monetary trick in the book to begin with. The situation has been fragile for a long time. They've been able to prop it up. But it will not continue forever. Is June 2023 the month that the tide starts to turn? Or could this just be a blip on the radar? I'm not going to make definitive statements. I'm done with that regarding the economy on this channel. I started this channel when I was in college. I was an economics student, and like many economics students, you think, once you first learn about stuff, you just think, I understand all this perfectly, it makes great sense, and I know exactly what's going to happen. And no, that's not the truth. You learn that after you make some predictions, and you start to think, oh my gosh, this means this, and it's like, well, no. Social sciences are not that clean. There are more variables than any one person could ever account for, than any committee could ever account for, than any academy could ever account for. All I'm saying is that we know that that we know where this ship is headed. I'm sorry for the nautical analogies, but it's all that's coming to mind today. We know where we're going. It's just a matter of how fast we get there. And at what time or at what point we're going to see the new harbor over the horizon. Remember, in most cases, the Fed ends up catching wind of the situation. They get scared and they cut rates long before the real economy is significantly impacted. And we haven't seen that yet. The Fed is still talking about hiking rates further this year, perhaps 2 more times. And so, until Powell and the gang get spooked and they cut rates back down to zero, or at least start cutting it all, and the general public sees that and starts to panic, we're probably not there. We can't say that for certain. But that's the next stage. You know how I can say that confidently? Because that's always been the next stage. Once the Fed hikes rates, then the market has to process that. Things start slowing down. People stop spending so much. They stop buying houses as frequently because they can't afford, to pay a 7% mortgage rate on a house that is $500,000 and, is only a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with a carport. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow, and I'll probably be discussing Tucker on Russell Brand because there's some spicy stuff that came out of that. I'll be discussing the end of the Zaporozhye crisis, and we'll see what else ends up popping up. That's just what I didn't get to today. So, have a lovely evening.